Hello there, ladies, gentlemen, and other assorted humans. I hope you're all doing exceptionally well today. Let's today talk about the Monster Hunter Secret Lair for Magic the Gathering. Now, we already know it's been postponed. They've gone back to the drawing board after what I can assume was player dissatisfaction. And I want to talk about that as well, because my initial response to seeing the Monster Hunter Secret Lair is, I could do that better, and we will get to that. But that's maybe just the arrogance of someone who thinks that they know better when they don't actually have a design job. In any case, the Monster Hunter Secret Lair was whelming. It was very whelming. And the main point that I think is the most unfortunate about the way that we can have this conversation about the way Magic is going is that it's very Universes Beyond. And I know for myself that I'm basically only interested in Universes Beyond IPs. When I came into this hobby, I did it through the Lord of the Rings set. That was the reason I even started playing Magic the Gathering, which I'm very grateful for. But I know that whenever I think about building a deck or a theme, and then I'm like, what commander do I want to use? It almost always goes to one of the ones that I have in Universes Beyond. And I think that is the way that this is going. Basically, this is now going to be the Fortnite of card games, and that's just how it's going to be. And we can talk about that, that can be its own conversation, but I want to talk about this Monster Hunter one. Because why are we getting Universes Beyond products that are, how should I put it, not fantasy? And then we're getting fantasy products that are just Secret Lairs. That's the thing I really find upsetting about the Monster Hunter Secret Lair, is that it could have been, maybe it still will, it could have been an actual set that would have been very kind of cool to the lore of Magic the Gathering and would be actually really freaking cool as like a full set and not just a Secret Lair. Because, and I could be wrong in saying this, I don't believe that there's ever been a Universes Beyond that is, a Secret Lair that has become a Universes Beyond set. There are exceptions, I know, like the Marvel IPs, but they've not been very consistent with that. For instance, the first Marvel IP, which was a Secret Lair, was the Storm, Captain America, Wolverine. And now, of course, we have the actual set, which is Spider-Man, and we're going to be getting another set, which is kind of other Marvel stuff. But ostensibly speaking, they're all supposed to be individual IPs, even though Marvel is a big brand and has lots of things under it. My point is that I've never seen a Secret Lair of a different IP that isn't Magic the Gathering become a Universes Beyond, which is unfortunate, because this is one of those universes, this is one of those Secret Lairs that could very, very easily have been an incredible Universes Beyond. Reprinting all the favourite monsters, reprinting hunters. I mean, we had an entire year of them printing the hero mechanic on so many different things. Imagine if instead of the Spider-Man set, we'd gotten a Monster Hunter set, for example. Now, I've got my own opinions about there being sci-fi elements inside Magic the Gathering, but we're not going to go into that today because they've already done other things, but that doesn't matter. What I want to talk about is the actual Universes Beyond set, what we were going to get. So obviously there's the promo Sol Ring, which is very, very cool. But I want to talk a little bit at the start here about the choice of cards that we had. So the Hunt set saw some different interesting ones. We got kind of abilities of monsters where it was capturing either, roars or the moonlight of what's it fucking called? I've completely forgotten its name. The monster from Monster Hunter Wilds. I've completely forgotten its name. Crimson Moonlight, Malzeno. Sorry, it's Malzeno. The Rage of Yangaruga, etc., etc. They've captured kind of attacks or the brutality of some of these creatures, which I think is cool. They've got the actual hunters, which are all kind of really good. You've got reprints of Grand Abolisher. You've got reprints of Archaeomancer, which is really awesome. Imperial Recruiter. These are really good. Champion of Landhold. These are insanely awesome prints to have for these cards. And I'm not saying that these are bad at all, because again, we've got the monsters. We've got Lagiacrus, Rathalos, Fatalis, Nergigante, Zinogre. Great popular monsters. And then we've also got the second one as well. So we've got Gormagala, Brachydios, Nagakuga, and Velkhana. Now, I think these are great. But I also am of the opinion that I wish I could actually have these as cards. I want to play Fatalis lord of all creation or some shit, right? Like I want to Fatalis, the final frontier. Like that's what I want. I want to, I don't want just reskins of these cards. And also there's the argument that some of these aren't even Elder Dragons. They are like Elder Dinosaur and Demon Dragon. And it's like that you could have a whole argument for. And I even think that maybe some of the actual choices for what dragon they're representing is a little bit off, but that's its own point. Like, I don't really think that Fatalis being Zayatora, for instance, is particularly on the money, but that's just me. But my problem is that these cards could have been standalone cards, and I think they would have been really freaking good. So, that's a conversation that we can have. We can talk about what could have been. Obviously, they've gone back to the drawing board, and it's going to be a secret lair regardless of what we kind of say. I wish it was a set, but it's going to be a secret lair. What do I want from a secret lair like this? Well, first and foremost, there's a lot here, but there's a lot we've missed as well. And I believe that there have been secret lairs which have created new cards. So, for instance, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, those were cards created for the movie, which then have universes within printings as well. But that's what I would want to see from this secret lair. If we're only getting like 5 cards per little like domain's like secret lair name, I want to see new cards for each of these. I want to see Fatalis as Fatalis. And also, I want to see some headline monsters from a few different games, if that is the case. I don't just want Lagiacrus, Rathalos, Fatalis, Nergigante, and Zenoga. I want, like, Secret Lair, Monster Hunter 1, Monster Hunter 2, something of that nature. I think that'd be really cool. Of course, there's also the argument that you could go Secret Lair headliners, and it's just like the final bosses or something of that nature from those games. I think that'd be a cool idea as well. But the main sentiment that I've heard as well is having monsters that transform into equipment. And I think that's a really missed opportunity. I do agree. I think that the idea of having a front side card that is a monster and then a backside card that is one of their equipments is a great idea, and that's what kind of has inspired what I'm going to be talking about as well. Because in an evening and with terrible grammar and poor spelling, but I will show you the examples that I created the Briz Monster Hunter Secret Lair for all of the weapons. Now, they don't have a front side that's a monster and then a back side that is the weapon, but I think that would be really cool. Obviously, that wouldn't be possible for some of these weapons because they are double-sided, but I think that that would be the thing missing from this secret lair, if we can only keep it to a secret lair. I would love to see my favorite monster, Safi Jiva, as a reprint of Inferno of the Star Mounts, but that's me. So let's talk about what I did. I built and designed a few different cards for all of the weapons in Monster Hunter. I tried to give them a cool effect based on how the weapon can play. Admittedly, I don't play all the weapons, so I'm not as familiar with them, but I tried my best. I want to share those with you today, if I can. So, let's start off with the Light Bogan and the Heavy Bogan, the most outlandish and the most insanely large texted out of all of these. The Light Bogan, I wanted to be an X cost equipment, and with all of these equipment, I wanted them to have maybe a keyword and also all have a job select type ability, where they enter and they create a token, a hunter token, for example. The Light Bogan that I chose has reach, and this was true for all the kind of ranged weapons. I wanted them all to have reach. I did try to keep some weapons as different as possible. I tried to use as many keywords as possible, but this is what we got for this. Now, I have missed a lot of details on this because I just threw it together to show my friends, to kind of show off my kind of design ideas, and so I hope you'll be okay with that. So when this equipment enters with X charge counters. When it deals combat damage, you put X charge counters on this X artifact with X amount of damage you've dealt. You can see it doesn't give any stat bonuses, doesn't do anything like that, but it has 3 different abilities. Poison ammo, and this is like remove a charge counter, and then it gains this ability until like end of turn, something of that nature, right? So poison ammo gives the creature Toxic 1, and the effect can stack. For those of you unfamiliar with Toxic, Toxic is the ability that whenever you deal combat damage to a player, to a player, they get that many poison counters. So even if you do 1 damage, you get that many poison. That's how it works. Now, I don't know if that's how Toxic works specifically, but that was the idea, that you could stack effects of Toxic, and I think that'd be really cool as like an alternate win condition on this artifact. Recovery arrow gives a creature lifelink until end of turn, and sleep ammo puts a stun counter on target creature. This can also all be done at instant speed. I thought that'd be a really interesting way to do this. And it has equip X, where X is the number of charge counters on it. So the more charge counters that are on this artifact, the harder it is to equip. I think it's a cool idea. Again, you can agree, you can disagree. We're not necessarily talking about these being actual cards, but more that these would be cool ideas for cards to have, and I hope that's okay. Heavy Bogan is an XX card. I wanted this to feel like it was a big boy. It has reach again, it has the same enters with X charge counters and the combat damage to gain charge counters. And also then it has, whenever this creature attacks, you may remove all charge counters and choose 1. Now admittedly I haven't worded one of these properly, but I hope you'll forgive me for that. So we've got Wyvern Heart and Wyvern Snipe, deals X damage to target to each creature defending player controls, or you can choose to deal twice X damage to any creature, and the excess damage is dealt to the controller, and you can exile that creature. So it's trying to capture the kind of the fun ways that the Heavy Bogan plays. The Wyvern Heart is all about kind of machine gunning down a target, and I thought about, you know, in Monster Hunter World, when you kind of have the Heavy Bogan, you're fighting like the Great Jagras right at the beginning, just attacking loads of his little Jagresses. And the Wyvern Snipe, I wanted to really feel like you're pinpointing a creature, you're shooting it, and it penetrates the target, it can hit the controller, and if it dies, you exile it, that kind of thing. I think it's a fun idea. It's got the X equip, all that kind of stuff. Sword and Shield. This is incredibly, the costs, do not pay attention to this. This card would be meta instantly if it was 1 cost. It has to be 3 cost, I would say. But it has Job Select, equipped creature gets +1/+1, and then it has one equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you choose 1. You investigate, create a clue token, you can create a treasure token, or you can put +1/+1 counter on this creature, equip 2. Very simple. The simplest card that I wanted to create was the Sword and Shield. It's a little bit bland, a little bit boring, but always good, always useful, and I tried to make each ability kind of reflect an aspect of how the Sword and Shield can play. So, you know, the Perfect Rush is the super move. I've tried to capture that with all of these. But the Investigate and create a food token, you know, you can eat food while you have the Sword and Shield equipped. Creating a treasure token, I thought was cool, like when you break off a monster part and then +1/+1 counter, you're just getting stronger. I thought it was fun. I hope you guys liked the idea. Dual Blades. These ones are really fun. Job Select, 3 mana, equip creatures +1/+1 in haste. You're fast. You got the Dual Blades. Of course you do. Demon's Fury. When a equipped creature becomes blocked, it gains double strike until end of turn. And this was the interesting one, I wasn't sure if I wanted to make this power or mana cost, but essentially I wanted it that if you are attacking and you're being blocked by a creature that is big, you get to do the Demon's Fury, like you get to do the somersault down its back. So if you're being blocked by a creature with mana cost 6 or greater, this gains trample until end of turn. I thought it was a really fun way to just like go all the way down it. Of course, it could be that this is nowhere near good. Maybe you'd need it to have some other abilities as well, like increasing its power so that it wouldn't get destroyed, or increasing its toughness, or whatever it may be. But I think this is a fun idea. I like the concept that I went with whenever you are attacking, if you get blocked, you're trying to like trample over the creature by going down it. That was the principal idea. I think it's fun. I don't know if it's all that good, but I think it's fun. You may need to like say double this creature's power if it gets blocked as well. But you know, you're giving it a lot of power then if you're doing all that. This one is a really fun one. It's really interesting. The Insect Glaive. Now we all know the Insect Glaive. You pogo and you're up and down. How could you capture that? You could do enter the battlefield abilities. You do exile. I chose to do something a little bit different. This has Job Select +1/+1 and flying, and it has Vault. The equipped creature phases in at the beginning of combat on each turn and then phases out at the end of combat. I think this is a fucking wild ability because this can help you dodge like board wipes and some other weird shit, but it means that your creature, like you can't utilize it during main phases basically. So it becomes a really funny way of like, if you can stick the Insect Glaive onto like some weird creature that can like, just has like maybe a combat trigger, you've got like a very difficult to deal with creature outside of instant speed removal. I think it's really fun. I think it's thematic. I really like it. Yeah. some of these text boxes get really big, and this was a really easy way to make it quite small, so I'm a big fan of this. The hammer, a really simple one again. The job select, +4/+0 and trample, and then you can assign combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So essentially, this is if any amount of damage gets through to the player, and I believe this is true, it assigns it as though all damage went through to the player, which I just think is a really simple ability. I think it's fun, I think it's neat, and I think the hammer is just kind of one of those simple weapons. Let me bonk the motherfucker, you know? Let me just bonk. I think it's fun. And again, I do need to preface this for all these. I'm not looking for like feedback on these abilities necessarily. I just think they're fun. I want to share them with you. If you have your own ideas, I would also love to hear them. This is just like a what if. Imagine if in the Secret Lair, we got a whole list of weapons. Even if they weren't these versions of weapons, I just wanted to explore the idea that we got new weapons in the game. I still think it should be a full set, but there we are. The longsword. This was actually the first one I think I designed, and it's fun. I think it's nice. So, it has job select, equipped creatures +3/+1 in first strike, and you've got the EI Spirit Slash. Whenever this creature attacks, it gains until your next turn. The next time equipped creature will be destroyed, regenerate it. Sorry, I put while in there as well. I apologize. And also, if you regenerate this creature in combat, it gains double strike on your next turn. It's a wonky ability. It's funny. I don't know if the equip cost needs to be 4. I think it could probably be 3. But I really wanted to capture that the longsword has this, when I attack, I could have gone into the Spirit Helmbreaker, but I like the idea about the dodging mechanic. I was like, how can I capture the dodging mechanic? Well, attack, and you'll notice this is probably one of the only abilities that is like on attack. Most of them I've done on combat damage. And I think regenerate is a fine keyword for this kind of ability. I think that is perfectly capturing in Magic the Gathering mechanics the evasion mechanic of the longsword is with regeneration. And then the kind of double strike is to indicate like the follow-ups that you can do from a perfect evasion. I think it's fun. I think it's nice. Moving on. Switch axe. This is admittedly a weapon I do not use. So I apologize if that is... I've completely missed the mark on this. But as job select and as menace. Equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, put a charge counter on this artifact. It gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on this artifact, and then you can transform it as a sorcery with 3. Now, the other side of this artifact, I have not worded properly, so we'll go through what I intended with what I meant as opposed to how I actually worded it. So again, you've got menace and +1/+1, completely fine. The other side, the switch axe, but on the sword side. So this creature gets menace and +2/+2 for each charge counter on this artifact, so you've increased the amount of power that this thing has. You also have, whenever you attack, you may remove all charge counters from this artifact. If you do, deal X damage to any creature, excess damage then to the controller, and also this creature cannot be blocked this turn if you've done the remove all charge counters. And then if there are no charge counters on this artifact, you just transform it back. Now, what I wanted from this is that you'd be able to do the meaty combat damage, and then you'd also be able to do the remove, but I kind of got the order wrong. So the way this actually reads is that while the charge counters are on it, it is really big, but then when you remove all the charge counters, you lose all of that combat buff, but the creature can't be blocked. So it's like, and I don't know if that is a good trade-off. It was just my friend who let me know that if you're removing all the charge counters to deal that much damage to a creature, you're not hitting very hard at that point. I'm like, yeah, that is fair. So there may be some need to work around that, but I really wanted to capture you're sticking the blade into the monster and blowing it up. And usually when that happens, because the animation takes you with it, I thought it was really fun to make it unblockable. But I do think that this could very well be, especially with the equip cost 5 when it's transformed, for each charge count, because remember, you can't gain charge counters while this is transformed, you have to flip it back. So the only way you can gain charge counters is if it's on its axe side. But it's fine. It's fine. It's probably overcosted for this kind of effect. The way I really wanted it to be was whenever you'd deal combat damage to a player, you'd remove all the charge counters and then do the effect. But I wanted the unblockable in there somewhere. But also it has menace, so it doesn't need the unblockable. Whole thing. In any case, moving on. The Charge Blade. This was the final one that I did, and it has the most unique ability. So it has prowess, so job select and prowess, and its transform cost is 10. This could be higher, but I put it at 10. And the ability costs X less to cast, where X is the creature's power. So obviously if you have prowess, it'll grow your creature's power anyway, which is going to inversely decrease the transform cost. And it's supposed to deal something really fucking wild. So it does do just that. The transform side of the Charge Blade has super amped elemental discharge. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you can exile any number of non-creature spells from your graveyard, and this creature deals damage to each player equal to the total mana value of the exiled cards, and then you flip it back. This is a finisher. I want it to feel like you dunk and you dunk and it blows up blows up all players. I think I really nailed it on the head with this one. I could be completely wrong, but on one hand, it'll always be a threat. It's the number of non-creature spells in your graveyard, but the downside of that is you're easily grave-hated out of this, you know, all this, like, that kind of stuff. While you can use the prowess to, like, cantrip loads of little things, technically big mana spells is better for this. So it's a really interesting idea. I like it. It doesn't give any natural power, and I think it may be striving to go two ways, like, the front side wants you to cast lots of little spells, so the transform cost is lower, but the other side wants you to exile spells. And also, again, it's pretty difficult. There is no evasion on this equipment. It has to deal combat damage for the effect to blow people up. But I do think that it's supposed to be a nuke. And I think that's fine. If it wants to be a nuke, it has to act like a nuke. It can't pretend to be a little twig. It can't be a splinter. It has to be a nuke. So I think that's fine. The Lance, I think we're about halfway through, so thank you very much. This is a super long video. The Lance was one of the first few that I ever designed, so we'll give it a whirl. Job select, I do think it's overcosted at 5 cost. My friend said that as well. Equipped creature is +1/+4 vigilance and can block one additional creature. So you're always attacking with this creature and you can block. And then this is the really interesting one, guard up. So whenever this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +0/+2 for each creature blocking it or it is blocking. So on offense, it is very difficult to deal with in terms of like trading into it. And on defense, it's also really good at doing that because again, it can block an additional creature, which means when it blocks one thing, it gets +0/+2, and then it blocks it again. So at base, this is a 1/1 that then, you know, becomes a 2/5 as a result of the equipment job selecting onto it to 2/5. And whenever it becomes blocked by one creature or blocks one creature, it becomes a 2/7, and then it can block up to another creature, so it can become up to a 2/9. This was entirely inspired by a card called General Marholt Elsdragon, who I fucking love. He was in contention for like one of the first commanders I ever was going to build when I first got into the game. He's wacky, I love him, I love the Lance. The Bow! Another interesting one. This one is wild. I'm not going to lie to you, it's wild. So, I have left out a clause at the very end, but I really wanted to capture with the Bow the 1-shot, 2-shot, 3-shot like kind of feel of the Bow, and also then the ultimate move, the Dragon Piercer. So it's got job select, it's got reach, it's got no +1/+1s, anything like that, and it's got whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, untap this creature. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. Only this creature may attack during that phase. You may notice from that, there is no limit to that. That's why we're going to keep reading. Charge Shot. At the start of each additional combat phase on your turn, this creature gets +2, -1. Now you'll notice that that means that the job selected token can't actually attack the second time. So that's a bit of a non-bow. I may have considered giving this like +0/+2, or +1, sorry, so that it can attack one additional time. But the idea is that there is a trade-off. You're exposing yourself when you do this, and it is not infinite, which is what the Dragon Piercer is. So if this is the third time this effect is resolved this turn, this creature deals X damage to target player, where X is this creature's power, and then it's supposed to say also, like, end combat. Like, there's no more combat after this. So I really wanted to capture the 1-shot, 2-shot, 3-shot. Of course, you need to have a big enough creature to even do that 1-shot, 2-shot, 3-shot. And then when the third shot goes through, it deals damage to a player because you're dragon piercing, and then the combat ends. I think it's a fun idea. I think it's neat. It needs some more text, and I do think that it should maybe have +0/+1, so that the actual colorless creature token can attack one extra time. But otherwise, I like the idea for the Bow. The Hunting Horn is a wild idea. Now, we are very, very close to being right at the end. I think we only have 2 more weapons after this. So, Hunting Horn, I wanted to capture kind of a group hug aspect for this. So as job select, and whenever this creature attacks, it gains one of the following. Encore. If this creature becomes blocked, other creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. You're encoring, you're antheming your board. This could have been any ability. This could be literally anything. Like creatures you control get +1/+1, +2/+2, I don't care. It could be creatures you control get +1/+1 for each creature on your board. I don't really mind what the effect is, but I wanted an anthem effect to all of your creatures. The reason I haven't done it for this creature as well is that I just don't feel like it's necessary, you know? I feel like that may be a trade-off, but we can negotiate that. The other one, though, is also interesting. So again, whenever this creature attacks, you could choose one of these 2. Echo Wave. If this creature was not blocked, so your opponent let it through, both the attacking and defending players add X mana in any combination, where X is the amount of damage dealt by this creature this turn. You add that mana at the beginning of that player's next main phase. So for you, that's your main phase 2, and for them, it's their main phase 1. I really like this ability. It's very akin to Xyrus, which is the entire reason I came up with this idea, and I love it. I love the idea of, oh, well, if I block this creature, you know, I don't take any damage, but, ooh, if I'm not being blocked, I'm getting like an extra little bit of mana. Am I able to use that mana? And that's a really interesting dynamic. I really like the Hunting Horn. I think it's a fun idea. Is 5 mana with a 4 equip too much? Most likely. I think you could probably do 4 mana with a 3 equip, but I digress. Last 2, the Gun Lance. We've got job select, equipped creature gets +3/+1, and whenever it attacks, you choose 1. So shelling means that creatures defending player controls get -0, -1 until end of turn. That's really powerful. Again, that's why it's 6 mana. It is a board wipe on a stick for little weenies. I like it. Wormstake Cannon. Up to 1 target creature defending player controls takes X damage, where X is the number of attacking creatures you control. I wanted this to feel like you have to like kind of poke the wormstake, because that's what you have to do in the game. You actually have to attack the wormstake to make it blow up. So I wanted the number of attacking creatures to matter in that instance. And then finally we've got the Wyvern Fire Charge. So defending player takes X damage, where X is this creature's power, which is at base 4 if it's just on the token, which I think is absolutely fine. Again, it's on attack, so it's really quite powerful. This could even be on combat damage, but I think it'd be a lot weaker. Well, definitely be a lot weaker, but I like this. I think it's completely fine. So let's end out the video with the final weapon, the Greatsword. Oh my god, this one is fucked. This is a 9 mana artifact with job select, and equipped creature has +9/+0 and trample, making it a 10/1. I didn't put an equip cost on this, but it would be like equip 7 or like equip 9 or something stupid. And it has 2 abilities. Charge, so remember it has trample. Charge Slash. Whenever the equipped creature would deal combat damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player. That's base. That's base. The True Charge Slash is a replacement effect, and it has the Exert ability. If you don't know what Exert is, it means that whenever you tap this creature or it attacks, you can exert it, which means that it does not untap during your next untap step, but it gains an additional effect. So I'd want this to be a replacement effect for the Charge Slash, which would then read, whenever equipped creature attacks, you may exert this creature. If you do, it gains, whenever equipped creature would deal combat damage to a permanent player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent player, and it gains lifelink until end of turn. If you're not familiar with the reason why I've added the lifelink, in Monster Hunter there is a real strategy, at least in World, where in order to keep your sustain up during like combat, you would put on recovery augments, so that if you just took damage while you were mid-combo, you could just complete the combo and it would heal you back up and you didn't need to stop to drink. I love this ability. And it is a replacement effect, so you're either dealing the double damage or you're dealing triple damage with lifelink and it's being exerted. I think it's fun. The wording isn't appropriate to like how it would actually need to be worded to articulate that, but I think this is a fucking slam dunk. This kills people, you know what I mean? Like, this is so good. At base, this is a 10/1 with triple damage on exertion, which means that you can regain 30 life on 1 swing. That is nuts. That is so crazy. And that's minimum. if you exert it. If you actually get blocked, because it deals triple damage to each permanent and player, it means that 30 multiplies, which is ludicrous in any case. I really like these, but we're going to end the video now. This was a thought experiment. It was me going, what the fuck, Wizards of the Coast? I could do this so much better. How can you not see that there is so much potential for these kind of IPs? I wish, and I do hope we get a Monster Hunter Universes Beyond, because among Universes Beyond, I would much rather have Monster Hunter than the likes of Spider-Man, Doctor Who, or things of that nature. Heck, I'd even trade in Aether Drift for that, because Aether Drift really is a Universes Beyond set, if we can be so controversial. And I would trade them in for this kind of thing in a heartbeat. I would love to see the likes of the From Software games adapted as Universes Beyond. I would love to see, considering that that's just kind of what's happening now, I'd love to see The Witcher adapted as a Universes Beyond. I would love to see actual fantasy games. I'd love to see Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls adapted. But hey, you know, they're doing a Monster Hunter Secret Lair. That's all we know. And I would love to see some weapons in there. I think that's the one thing that's missing. We've got hunters, we've got monsters, we've got abilities, but we don't have any weapons. I think that's what's missing. So that's my take. Thanks so much for just listening to me talk about homebrewed cards, and I will see you all in the next video. Stay well, stay safe. Know that you are loved and appreciated, and the world is a better place with you in it. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching.